The trading station smelled like oil and ozone, a mix that Jake Morrison had grown used to over his 5 years hauling cargo through the frontier. He walked through the crowded marketplace where aliens of a dozen different species bartered and argued in a chaos of languages. His boots clicked against the metal floor as he searched for the fuel depot. He was not looking for trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him. The explosion came from the east corridor, a bright flash followed by screaming. Jake's military instincts kicked in before his brain caught up. He ran toward the danger while everyone else ran away. Through the smoke, he saw 3 armed Kraith soldiers surrounding a tall alien merchant. The merchant was from a species Jake did not recognize, with blue skin and too many arms. The Kraith were reptilian, brutal, and known for taking what they wanted. Their weapons were pointed at the merchant's chest. Jake did not think. He just acted. His hand went to the plasma pistol at his hip and he fired twice. The shots hit the floor near the Kraith soldiers' feet, making them jump back. One of them turned and aimed at Jake. That was a mistake. Jake was faster. His next shot hit the soldier's weapon, melting it. The other 2 Kraith looked at each other, decided this fight was not worth it, and ran. The blue-skinned merchant straightened up and bowed. His voice was deep and grateful when he spoke in accented human language. "I am Vexthar of the Ilarian Trade Consortium," the merchant said. "You have saved my life, human. I owe you a great debt." Jake holstered his weapon and shrugged. Just get out of here before they come back with more friends. But Vexthar did not leave. He grabbed Jake's arm with 2 of his hands. "I cannot pay you with money," he said quickly. "My accounts are frozen by enemies. But I have something else. Someone else. Please come with me." Jake wanted to refuse, but something in the alien's eyes made him follow. They walked through back corridors to a small docking bay where a damaged ship sat. Vexthar led him inside. In the dim cargo hold, 2 figures waited. One was a woman, though not human. She had pale skin that almost glowed in the low light, silver hair that fell past her shoulders, and eyes that were an impossible shade of violet. Her ears were pointed, sweeping back from her head in an elegant curve. She wore simple gray clothes that looked like servants' clothing, but she stood with a grace that made her seem royal. Next to her sat a small creature that looked like a dragon from old Earth stories. It was about the size of a house cat, with black scales that shimmered like oil on water. Its eyes were bright amber and far too intelligent for any animal. When it looked at Jake, he felt like it was reading his soul. "This is Lyra," Vexthar said, gesturing to the woman. "She is Sylvanie from the far reaches, and that is Ember, her companion. I offer them to you as payment for the life debt I owe." Jake stared. "You are offering me a person as payment." Lyra spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft but clear, with an accent that made every word sound like music. "I am a bonded servant to Vexthar. If he transfers my bond to you, I will serve you faithfully. This is our way." Jake looked at her carefully. She met his eyes without fear, but he saw something else there. Something hidden. This woman was not what she appeared to be. "I don't keep people," Jake said firmly. Vexithar's multiple hands waved frantically. "You do not understand. If you do not take her, she will be sold to the Kraith. They are looking for Sylvanie. They will hurt her. Please, Captain Morrison, this is the only way to keep her safe." Jake looked at Lyra again. "Is this what you want?" Lyra nodded slowly. "I would rather serve you than fall into Kraith hands. You saved Vexthar. That tells me you are a good man. I will accept this." The little dragon, Ember, made a sound that was almost like agreement. Jake ran a hand through his dark hair and sighed. "Fine, but we are going to have a long talk about this arrangement once we are off this station." Vexthar looked relieved. He pressed a small data chip into Jake's hand. "This transfers her bond legally. Thank you, Captain. You have saved 2 lives today." An hour later, Jake's ship, the Wanderer, was preparing to leave the station. Lyra sat in the small passenger area with Ember on her lap. She stroked the dragon's scales gently while watching Jake pilot the ship through the departure procedures. The station control tower cleared them for launch, but as they passed through the final scanner, alarms suddenly blared. Jake's hands tightened on the controls, ready to punch the engines to full power. Then just as suddenly, the alarm stopped. The scanner went quiet. The control tower told them they were clear to proceed. Jake glanced back at Lyra. She was perfectly calm, her face showing nothing. But her hand was touching a pendant around her neck that he had not noticed before. It was a strange silver thing with a blue crystal in the center. "What just happened?" Jake asked. Lyra met his eyes. Sometimes scanners malfunction, Captain Morrison. They left the station and entered open space. Jake set the autopilot for the mining colony where his next cargo delivery waited. It would be a 3-week journey through relatively safe space, or so he thought. He turned his chair to face Lyra. All right, talk. What are you really? Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Ember watched Jake with those unsettling amber eyes. Finally, she spoke. I am Sylvani, as Vexthar said. My people live in a region of space that humans know very little about. We prefer to keep to ourselves. But there is trouble in my homeland, a war. I was trying to escape when Vexthar found me and offered protection in exchange for service. Why would the Kraith want you? They want all Sylvani, Lyra said. We have something they desire, technology, knowledge, power. Jake studied her. And what else are you not telling me? Lyra smiled slightly. Many things, Captain. But I promise you this. I will not bring harm to your ship or your person if I can prevent it. That is my oath. She stood and bowed, a formal gesture that made her look like she was bowing to royalty instead of a cargo hauler. Then she took Ember and went to the small sleeping quarters Jake had assigned her. Jake sat alone in the cockpit and wondered what he had just gotten himself into. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly. He noticed 3 ships on his long-range scanner, following at a distance. They had been there since the station. His military training whispered warnings in his mind. This woman was dangerous. This situation was wrong. He should dump her at the next port and forget this ever happened. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she had looked at him with those violet eyes. Maybe it was the fact that she had chosen to trust him. Or maybe he was just tired of running safe cargo routes while the galaxy fell apart around him. He checked the weapon systems and made sure they were ready. Then he opened a secure channel and sent a message to an old friend who owed him a favor. If things went bad, he wanted backup. 3 days into the journey, Ember had grown noticeably larger. The dragon was now the size of a medium dog. Jake confronted Lyra about it during their evening meal. You said he was fully grown? Jake pointed out. Lyra looked uncomfortable for the first time. I said many things, Captain. Some of them were not entirely accurate. Ember grows when he feels safe. He has not felt safe in a very long time. The dragon made a rumbling sound that might have been a purr and rubbed against Jake's leg. Despite himself, Jake smiled and scratched behind the creature's horns. What else have you lied about, he asked. Before Lyra could answer, the ship's alarm screamed. 2 fighter craft had appeared on the scanner, closing fast. The communication channel crackled with a harsh voice. Human vessel. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Hand over the Sylvani female and you will not be harmed. Jake jumped into the pilot's seat and his hands flew over the controls. Not a chance, he muttered. The battle for their lives had begun. Jake threw the Wanderer into a hard spin as the first missile streaked past the hull. The old cargo ship groaned under the stress but held together. His hands moved across the controls with practiced speed while his mind calculated angles and distances. Lyra stumbled but caught herself on a support rail. Ember dug his claws into the deck plating to stay steady. The little dragon's eyes glowed brighter as he watched the tactical display. Hold on, Jake shouted. This is going to get rough. The 2 fighter craft split up, trying to flank him from both sides. They were fast and well armed. The Wanderer was neither, but Jake had fought in the Colonial Marines for 6 years before he became a trader. He knew how to make a slow ship dance. He cut the main engines and fired the maneuvering thrusters in a pattern that sent the ship tumbling. The fighters overshot their target. Jake brought the engines back online and pushed them to maximum power, heading straight for the larger of the 2 fighters. The enemy pilot did not expect a cargo ship to play chicken. He broke off at the last second. That gave Jake the opening he needed. His fingers stabbed at the weapons controls and the Wanderer's single plasma cannon fired. The shot caught the fighter's engine and it spun away trailing smoke. 1 down, 1 to go. The second fighter was smarter. It stayed behind the Wanderer where Jake's cannon could not reach it. Missiles locked onto his ship and he knew his luck had run out. The fighter fired, then Ember moved. The dragon launched himself at the rear airlock. Jake heard Lyra shout something in a language he did not know. The airlock blew open and Ember shot out into space. What is he doing? Jake yelled. Just fly, Lyra called back. Her hands were moving in strange patterns and her pendant was glowing bright blue. Through the rear camera, Jake saw something impossible. Ember was growing. In seconds, the cat-sized dragon became as large as a fighter craft. His wings spread wide, black scales shimmering in the starlight. He opened his mouth and breathed fire in the vacuum of space. The flames were not normal fire. They burned white and blue, impossibly bright. They hit the enemy fighter and turned it into molten slag and heartbeats. Jake stared at the screen in shock. What in the name of all stars was that? Ember shrunk back down to his small size and flew back to the ship. Lyra guided him in with her glowing hands, and the airlock sealed behind him. The dragon shook himself like a wet dog and made a satisfied rumbling sound. Jake put the ship on autopilot and turned to face Lyra. His expression was hard. Start talking. Right now. All of it. Lyra sat down slowly. Her face showed exhaustion and something else. Resignation. She took a deep breath. I am not just a servant, she began. I am someone important to my people. Someone that certain groups want dead or captured. The civil war in my homeland is not a small conflict. It threatens to tear apart everything my people have built over thousands of years. Jake crossed his arms. An ember is not a pet. Ember is a starworm, Lyra said, an ancient being that bonds with certain individuals. He is my protector and my companion. He can change his size at will. But we keep him small to avoid attention. Obviously, that did not work. Who are you really? Jake asked. Lyra met his eyes. I cannot tell you everything. Not yet, but I can tell you this. The pendant I wear contains information that could change the course of the war. That is why they are hunting me. And now that you have helped me, they will hunt you too. I am sorry, Captain Morrison. I brought danger to your door. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He should be angry. He should throw her off his ship at the next port. But instead he found himself asking another question. What do you need? Lyra looked surprised. What? What do you need to get safe? Jake repeated. Where do you need to go? You would help me, Lyra asked. After I lied to you? After I put you in danger? Jake shrugged. I have been in danger before, and something tells me that if those Kraith mercs wanted you, then you must be on the right side of whatever fight this is. The Kraith do not chase good people. They chase people who threaten their profits and power. Lyra's expression softened. There was something like hope in her violet eyes. I need to reach the Veil Nebula. There is a place there where my allies gather. If I can get this information to them, we might have a chance to stop the bloodshed. The Veil Nebula is 3 months away, Jake pointed out, and we just painted a target on our backs. Every merc and bounty hunter in the sector will be looking for us now. I know, Lyra said quietly. I will understand if you want to leave me at the next station. Jake thought about it. He thought about his simple cargo runs and his quiet life. He thought about the military career he had left behind because he was tired of politicians telling him who to fight. He thought about Marcus, his old squad leader, who used to say that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph was for good people to do nothing. Then he made his decision. We leave for the Veil Nebula in the morning, he said. But first I need to call in some favors. We are going to need help. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more people joined them on the Wanderer. Amy Chen was a pilot Jake had served with in the Marines. She was small and quick with red hair and a sharp tongue. She arrived with her own fighter craft that she attached to the Wanderer's docking port. Lisa Rodriguez was an engineer who could fix anything that broke and improve anything that worked. She had dark skin and clever hands and a laugh that filled the ship with warmth. The last was Marcus Stone, the man himself. He was big and solid with brown skin and gray in his beard. He had been Jake's commanding officer and was now his best friend. Marcus brought weapons and experience and the kind of steady presence that made everyone feel safer. Jake did not tell them everything, but he told them enough. There was a woman who needed protection. There was a cargo that needed delivery, and there would be people trying to stop them. That was enough for people who trusted Jake Morrison. During the journey, Lyra slowly became part of the crew. She learned to operate the ship's systems and helped Lisa with repairs. She taught Amy some tricks about energy management that made her fighter faster. She even convinced Marcus to teach her basic combat skills. Though Jake noticed she already moved like someone with training, Ember grew more. He was now the size of a large dog and spent most of his time lounging in the cargo bay. The crew got used to the dragon, though Amy swore he was judging her flying skills with those amber eyes. One evening, Jake found Lyra in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She seemed sad. Missing home, he asked. Lyra nodded. I had a sister. Younger than me. Her name is Kate. I had to leave her behind when I fled. I do not know if she is safe. Jake sat beside her. When this is over, we will find her. Lyra looked at him. Why are you doing this, Captain? You could have abandoned me a dozen times by now. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Because someone once told me that we define ourselves by our choices. When faced with something wrong, we either stand up or we walk away. I walked away too many times in my life. Not this time. Lyra reached out and took his hand. Thank you, Jake. It was the first time she had used his first name. Something warm settled in his chest. The next morning, Lyra received an encrypted message. Jake helped her decode it using some black market software he had. As the message appeared on the screen, Lyra's face went pale. What is it? Jake asked. It is from the palace, Lyra whispered. From Kate. She is in danger. My uncle has taken control and is using her as bait to draw me out. Jake read the message over her shoulder. Then he read the signature at the bottom and his eyes widened. Your sister is Princess Kate Starweaver, he said slowly. Which means you are Princess Lyra Starweaver, she finished. Third in line to the Sylvany throne, or I was. My mother, the queen, was murdered by my uncle. He wants to start a war that will consume both our people and yours. The information in my pendant proves his crimes. Jake leaned back. His mind was racing. He had accepted a princess as a servant. He was harboring one of the most wanted people in this part of the galaxy, and he was not giving her up. Then we changed the plan, he said. We get your sister. We get proof of your uncle's crimes to your allies, and we stop this war before it starts. Lyra stared at him. That is impossible, Jake grinned. Impossible just means nobody has tried hard enough yet. In the shadows of space, more ships were gathering. The hunt was on. The Sylvani homeworld of Ethelwyn hung in space like a blue and silver jewel. Jake watched it through the viewport while Lisa worked on the cloaking device they had bought from a very expensive black market dealer. The device was illegal in 12 sectors and unstable in 13 more, but it was their only chance. We have maybe 6 hours before this thing burns out, Lisa said, wiping grease from her hands. After that, every sensor in the system will see us. Then we better work fast, Marcus replied. He was checking weapons and loading magazines with smooth, practiced movements. Lyra stood beside Jake, her violet eyes fixed on her homeworld. She had not seen it in 8 months. Ember sat at her feet, now grown to the size of a small horse. The dragon would stay in orbit as their escape plan. Tell me about the passages again, Jake said. Lyra pulled up a holographic map. Beneath the palace are tunnels that were built 3,000 years ago. Only the royal family knows all the paths. I can get us in through the old catacombs and up into the residential wing where Kate is being held. Amy leaned over the map. How many guards? At least 50 in that section, Lyra said. But Kate has been sending me coded messages. She has been working on something, turning people to our cause. I think she has help inside. Jake studied the layout. We go in light and fast. Get Kate and get out, no heroes. No unnecessary risks, Marcus snorted. You know that never works out the way we plan it. He was right, but Jake did not say so. They took a small shuttle down to the planet's surface, landing in a forest 5 kilometers from the palace. The cloaking device kept them hidden from sensors but did nothing about the cold night air. Jake shivered as they moved through the trees. Lyra led them to what looked like a moss-covered rock formation. She pressed her hand against a specific stone and spoke words in her own language. The rock shimmered and faded, revealing a dark tunnel entrance. The royal seal, she explained. It responds only to blood of the royal line. They descended into darkness. Lisa activated glow sticks that cast green light on ancient stone walls. The tunnel was narrow and went deep into the earth. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. Their footsteps echoed too loudly for comfort. After an hour of walking, they reached a junction. Lyra chose the left path without hesitation. She had walked these passages as a child, learning the secret ways of the palace. They climbed stairs carved from solid rock. At the top, Lyra found another sealed door. This one opened into a storage room filled with old furniture and forgotten relics. Beyond that was a servant's hallway. Stay quiet, Lyra whispered. There will be guards. They moved like ghosts through the palace. Lyra knew every corner and every hiding spot. Twice they heard guards approaching and pressed themselves into alcoves until the danger passed. Amy kept her pistol ready but did not fire. Finally, they reached the residential wing. Lyra led them to a specific door with 2 guards standing outside. These were not palace guards in ceremonial armor. They were soldiers with modern weapons and hard eyes. Jake made a hand signal. Marcus nodded. They moved in perfect sync, a routine practiced 1,000 times in the Marines. Jake went left, Marcus went right. 2 quick strikes and both guards dropped silently. Lyra opened the door. The room beyond was richly furnished but clearly a prison, and in the center stood a young woman with silver hair like Lyra and the same impossible violet eyes. But where Lyra moved with careful grace, this girl had fire in her stance. Kate. Lyra breathed. The princess ran to her sister, and they embraced. Kate was crying and smiling at the same time. I knew you would come. I told them you would come. We need to move, Jake said. We do not have much time. Kate pulled back from her sister. Wait, there are others. People who stayed loyal to Mother. I have been organizing them. We cannot just run. Lyra looked at her sister with surprise. What do you mean? Kate walked to a tapestry on the wall and pulled it aside, revealing a hidden door. Beyond it was a small room where 10 people waited. Some wore servant clothes. Others wore guard uniforms. All of them bowed when they saw Lyra. Your Highness, an older woman said. We are ready to fight. Jake looked at the group and then at Marcus. His old commander shrugged. Well, this just got more complicated. A bell began to ring. Somewhere in the palace, someone had discovered the unconscious guards. We are out of time, Amy said. We need to go now. Kate grabbed a sword from one of the guards. I am not running anymore. Uncle Vex has been planning an alliance with the Kraith. He wants to use our technology to build weapons. He is going to attack human colonies to start a war that benefits him. We have proof hidden in the old throne room. Lyra looked at Jake. We need that proof. Without it, no one will believe us. Jake made a quick decision. Marcus, get these people to the shuttle. Amy, go with them. Lisa, Lyra, Kate, and I will get the proof. Marcus shook his head. Jake, you need me. I need you to keep them safe, Jake said. That is an order, old friend. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue but finally nodded. Do not get yourself killed. I hate training new captains. The group split up. Marcus and Amy led the loyal palace workers toward the catacombs. Jake, Lisa, Lyra, and Kate ran toward the throne room. They made it halfway before the ambush hit them. Soldiers poured out of side corridors. Plasma fire lit up the hallway in bright blue flashes. Jake returned fire while pulling Lisa behind a pillar. Lyra raised her hands and her pendant blazed with light. A shield of pure starlight formed in front of them, deflecting the incoming shots. Kate was not hiding. She moved like a dancer with a blade, her sword flashing as she fought with surprising skill. For a 16-year-old princess, she knew how to handle herself. Go, Lyra shouted to Jake. Get to the throne room. I will hold them. Jake hesitated. Lyra looked at him with those violet eyes. Trust me, he ran. Lisa followed. They burst through the doors of the throne room and found it empty. The massive chamber was decorated with silver and blue, showing the wealth of the Silvani people. Where is the proof? Jake asked. Behind the throne, Lisa said. Kate told me before we split up. They found a hidden compartment with data crystals inside. Jake grabbed them and turned to leave. That was when Vex appeared. He was tall and looked like an older, crueler version of Lyra. His face was scarred and his eyes were cold. He had a dozen soldiers with him. The traitor princess and her human pets, Vex said. How convenient. I can end this right now. In the hallway, an explosion rocked the palace. Lyra and Kate were fighting their way toward the throne room. The sounds of battle grew closer. You murdered your own sister, Jake said, backing toward the door with Lisa. You betrayed your people. Vex laughed. I saved my people from weakness. My sister wanted to share our secrets with inferior species. She would have destroyed everything pure about the Silvani. I did what was necessary. The doors blew open. Lyra stood there with Kate at her side. Both were breathing hard and covered in dust. The pendant around Lyra's neck was glowing so bright it hurt to look at. Uncle, Lyra said. This ends now. Vex drew his sword. Then come and face me, niece. Let us settle this the old way. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Vex held up a hand. This is between royal blood, he commanded. Lyra stepped forward. Her hands moved and weapons of pure light formed in her grip, long blades made of starlight. She and Vex circled each other. They fought. It was beautiful and terrible. Vex was skilled and strong, but Lyra was faster. Her light blades sang through the air. The throne room filled with the clash of energy on metal. Jake saw his chance. While everyone watched the duel, he signaled Lisa. They moved to the side exits. Kate followed them, keeping her eyes on her sister. Then Marcus' voice came through the comm. "Jake, we have a problem. The shuttle is surrounded." "We cannot take off," Jake cursed. "Ember," he called. "We need you." The roof of the palace exploded. Ember descended in his full glory. Massive wings spread wide. The dragon was as large as a battleship, scales shimmering black and purple in the lights. He roared and the sound shook the entire building. Vex looked up in shock. That was his mistake. Lyra struck. Her blade pierced his armor and he fell. The soldiers stared. Some dropped their weapons. Others raised them uncertain. Lyra stood over her uncle. He looked up at her with hate in his dying eyes. "You will fail," he whispered. "The Kraith will still come. War is already here." Then he was gone. Lyra turned to the soldiers. "I am Princess Lyra Starweaver, rightful queen of our people. My uncle murdered my mother and betrayed us to the Kraith. I have proof of his crimes. Stand with me or stand aside." Half the soldiers knelt. The other half ran. Ember landed in what remained of the throne room. His massive head pushed through the broken ceiling. "Time to go," the dragon rumbled in a voice like thunder. Jake stared. "You can talk. I can do many things, human," Ember replied. "I'll climb on before more enemies arrive." They scrambled onto the dragon's back. Lyra held the data crystals close. Kate clung to her sister. Marcus and Amy and the other refugees were already secured in cargo nets along Ember's spine. The dragon launched into the sky. Behind them, the palace burned. Sylvanese ships were rising to intercept them, but Ember was faster. His wings beat once, twice, and then he opened a rift in space itself. A swirling portal of colors that should not exist. They flew through it and emerged in open space far from Ethelwyn. The Wanderer was waiting with its engines hot. As they transferred to the ship, Lyra made a decision. She activated The Veil Nebula was beautiful and deadly. Swirling clouds of purple and blue gas hid entire star systems from sensors. Ships could disappear into the nebula and never be found. That made it perfect for hiding a rebellion. Jake piloted the Wanderer through the clouds, following coordinates that Lyra provided. Behind them, 36 Sylvani ships had joined their small fleet. They were captains who heard Lyra's broadcast and chose to follow their true queen. Inside the nebula, they found the Starborn Sanctuary. It was built into a massive asteroid, with docking bays carved from solid rock. Thousands of Sylvani lived here, soldiers and civilians who refused to serve under Vex and his allies. When Lyra stepped off the ship, the crowd that gathered fell silent. Then as one, they knelt. An old woman in robes came forward with tears on her face. "My queen," the woman said. "We thought all the royal family was dead. Your return brings us hope." Lyra helped the woman stand. "I am only one person, High Priestess. But I am not alone." She gestured to Jake and his crew. "These humans risked everything to help me. Without them, I would still be hiding or dead." The High Priestess looked at Jake with curiosity. "Then humans are welcome in our sanctuary. Any friend of the Queen is a friend to the Starborn." Over the next week, the sanctuary became a center of activity. More ships arrived every day, Sylvani commanders bringing their forces to join the fight. Lyra held council meetings, made decisions, and slowly took on the role she was born for. Jake attended most of these meetings as her advisor on human affairs. It was strange to go from cargo hauler to military strategist, but his experience was needed. The Sylvani fought with honor and tradition. Humans fought to win. One evening, Lyra asked Jake to walk with her through the observation deck. They looked out at the nebula clouds while Ember dozed nearby, now staying at his large size permanently. "I need to ask something difficult," Lyra said. "Will humanity help us?" Officially, Jake was quiet. "That is not a simple question. The Colonial Senate does not trust aliens easily. And your uncle made a deal with the Kraith, who have been raiding our colonies for years." Lyra nodded. "I know. But if Vex's forces win, they will honor that alliance. The Kraith will have access to Sylvani technology. They will build weapons that could destroy human worlds. Then we need to make the Senate see that," Jake said. "I have contacts. People who will listen, but you need to come with me. The Senate needs to meet you." 2 days later, Jake stood before the Colonial Senate on Earth. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from 50 human colonies. Admiral Grace Mitchell sat in the military section, a stern woman with gray hair and 3 decades of service. Jake told them everything. About Lyra, about the Civil War, about the Kraith Alliance. He showed them the data crystals Kate had helped them steal, proof of Vex's crimes and his plans to attack human space. The Senate argued for hours. Some wanted to help. Others wanted to stay neutral. A few suggested capturing Lyra and using her as a bargaining chip. Admiral Mitchell finally stood. She commanded the Third Fleet, the largest human battle group in the sector. When she spoke, people listened. "I have fought the Kraith for 15 years, the Admiral said. They do not negotiate. They do not compromise. If they get Sylvani technology, we will face an enemy we cannot defeat. I say we help the Starborn. Not for charity. For survival." The vote was close, but the Admiral's words tipped the balance. Humanity would send military support to the Starborn Rebellion. It would be the first official alliance between humans and Sylvani in history. Jake returned to the sanctuary with good news. Lyra embraced him, a rare show of emotion from the Queen. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have given my people hope." The human fleet arrived 1 month later. 20 warships led by Admiral Mitchell's flagship, the Defender. The Admiral met with Lyra in person and was impressed by the young Queen's intelligence and determination. Together, they formed a war council. Lyra commanded the Sylvani forces. Admiral Mitchell led the human ships. Jake became the liaison between them, translating not just language but entire ways of thinking about warfare. The council reviewed intelligence reports. Vex's forces controlled most of the Sylvani systems. The Kraith Dominion had sent battle groups to support them. Meanwhile, the Kraith were raiding human colonies on the far frontier, testing their defenses. "We are fighting a two-front war," Marcus said. He had been promoted to commander of ground forces. "We cannot win by defending. We need to attack, but where?" Amy asked. "The Kraith have fleets spread across 20 systems." Jake studied the tactical maps. He thought about what he knew of Kraith psychology. They were aggressive and territorial, but they were also practical. They would not spread their forces thin unless they had a reason. "What if we hit them at home?" Jake said suddenly. "Force them to pull back their fleets to defend their core worlds?" Admiral Mitchell looked skeptical. "The Kraith homeworld is heavily defended. We would lose half our forces trying to break through." "What if we do not need to break through?" Lyra said. She was looking at the data with new interest. "What if we just need to threaten something they cannot afford to lose?" Lisa pulled up intelligence reports. "According to this, the Kraith have been building something in their home system. A large structure. Our scouts could not get close enough to identify it." "A weapon," Marcus said. "Has to be, then that is our target," Jake said. "We destroy their superweapon before they can use it. That will force them to recall their fleets and break their alliance with Vex's forces." The plan was dangerous and complex. They would need to split their forces. Half would create a diversion while the other half made a deep strike into Kraith space. Success meant ending the war quickly. Failure meant losing everything. Lyra agreed to the plan. Admiral Mitchell agreed. Within days, the combined fleet began preparing for the largest military operation either species had attempted in decades. Jake found himself spending more time with Lyra as they planned the operation. She was brilliant, seeing patterns and connections that others missed. She also had a quiet strength that made people want to follow her. One night, Jake found her alone in the strategy room, studying maps. She looked exhausted. "You should rest," he said. Lyra smiled. "So should you. But neither of us will." Jake sat beside her. "When this is over, what will you do?" "Rule my people," Lyra said. "Try to rebuild what my uncle destroyed. Make peace with the humans and maybe other species, too." "What about you?" Jake shrugged. "Go back to hauling cargo, I guess. See where the stars take me." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. "You could stay. Be an ambassador between our peoples. We will need someone who understands both sides." "Is that the Queen asking, or you?" Jake said. Lyra's cheeks colored slightly. "Perhaps both." Before Jake could respond, alarms blared. Kate ran into the room, her face pale. "The Kraith are attacking the sanctuary," she shouted. "They found us." Everyone rushed to the command center. The screens showed a massive Kraith battle group emerging from hyperspace. They had at least 30 capital ships and hundreds of fighters. "How did they find us?" Admiral Mitchell demanded. "A spy," Lyra said grimly. "Someone betrayed us." The battle began immediately. The Starborn fleet and their human allies launched to meet the attack. Space filled with weapons fire and explosions. Ships on both sides burned and died. Jake ran to the Wanderer. His crew was already there, preparing to launch. Amy climbed into her fighter. Marcus armed the defensive turrets. Lisa brought the engines online. Lyra appeared at the airlock. I am coming with you. No, Jake said. You need to coordinate the defense. I am not watching from safety while my people die, Lyra said firmly. Besides, you need me. Ember and I can turn the tide. Jake knew that tone. He was not going to win this argument, fine. But you follow my orders on my ship. They launched into chaos. The Wanderer was not a warship, but Jake flew it like one. He wove between larger vessels, targeting Kraith fighters and missile batteries. Amy screamed past in her fighter, taking out 3 enemies in quick succession. Ember flew alongside them, a massive dragon in the void of space. His fire breath melted Kraith hull plating like butter. Enemy ships tried to focus fire on him, but the Starworm was too fast and too smart. The battle raged for hours. Slowly, the combined fleet gained the upper hand. The Kraith had numbers, but the humans had tactics, and the Sylvani had technology. Together, they were stronger than either alone. Finally, the Kraith commander made a mistake. He committed his flagship too far forward, trying to break the defensive line. Admiral Mitchell saw the opportunity and took it. The Defender and 3 other human warships concentrated fire on the flagship, crippling it. The Kraith fleet broke. They retreated into hyperspace, leaving behind damaged ships and debris. The sanctuary was saved, but the cost was high. They had lost 8 ships and hundreds of lives. The War Council gathered that night with grim faces. This was a warning, Admiral Mitchell said. They wanted to see how strong we are. Next time, they will come with more ships, then we do not give them a next time, Jake said. We launch our attack now. Before they can organize another assault, Lyra looked around the table. Her counselors were tired and afraid, but they trusted their queen. She nodded. Prepare the fleet, Lyra commanded. We strike at the Kraith homeworld in 3 days. This war ends now. The combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kraith home system, and every screen lit up with warning signals. The enemy had been expecting them. Hundreds of Kraith warships formed defensive lines around their homeworld, a dark planet covered in industrial complexes and military installations. Jake sat in the command center of the Defender alongside Admiral Mitchell and Queen Lyra. The tactical display showed the massive Kraith fleet, and behind it, the structure their scouts had reported. It hung in orbit like a metal moon, bristling with weapons and power conduits. That is their super weapon, Lisa said over the comm from the Wanderer. I am reading energy signatures that could destabilize a star. If they fire that thing at a populated system, billions will die. Then we make sure they never get the chance, Admiral Mitchell said. She opened fleet-wide communications. All ships begin attack pattern Delta. Human forces draw their attention. Sylvani forces punch through to the weapon. The battle began. The human warships charged forward, guns blazing. The Kraith fleet moved to intercept them, and space became a storm of fire and metal. Ships on both sides exploded into debris. Missiles streaked through the void. Energy beams carved through hulls. Jake watched the tactical display, looking for patterns. The Kraith were defending in layers, trying to keep anyone from reaching the superweapon. But they were concentrating too much force on the human ships, thinking the Sylvani vessels were less dangerous. That was their mistake. Lyra gave the signal. The Sylvani fleet activated stealth fields, technology the Kraith did not know they had. On sensors, 30 Sylvani warships simply vanished. They flew through the gaps in the Kraith formation, heading straight for the weapon platform. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Human tactics combined with Sylvani technology. The Kraith never saw it coming, but the enemy was not defeated yet. Kraith commanders realized what was happening and tried to redirect their forces. A massive battlecruiser broke from the main fleet and accelerated toward the invisible Sylvani ships. Ember, Lyra called. We need you. The Starworm appeared from behind a human destroyer where he had been hiding. He was immense now, as large as any warship. His wings spread wide, and he dove at the Kraith battlecruiser. His fire breath engulfed the ship's bridge, and it spun out of control, colliding with 2 of its escorts. The path was open. The Sylvani ships dropped their stealth fields and opened fire on the superweapon. Their energy cannons tore into the structure, but it was heavily shielded. The weapon began powering up, preparing to fire. Jake shouted into his comm. Can you hack that thing already on it? Lisa replied. But I need to get closer. Much closer, Jake did not hesitate. Marcus, take command here. I am going after Lisa. He ran to the hangar bay where the Wanderer was docked. Amy was already in her fighter, ready to launch. Kate appeared from nowhere, sword in hand. "I am coming too," the young princess said. Jake wanted to argue, but there was no time. They launched together, 3 small craft racing through the massive battle. Explosions bloomed around them. A Kraith fighter locked onto the Wanderer and Amy destroyed it with a perfect shot. The Wanderer approached the superweapon platform. It was enormous up close, covered in defensive turrets that tracked their approach. Jake flew evasively while Lisa worked at her console. "I need a data port," Lisa said. "Somewhere I can plug in directly." Kate pointed at a maintenance hatch on the lower section. "There. That leads to the control systems." Jake brought the ship alongside the hatch. It was too small for the Wanderer to dock, but Amy's fighter could make it. She flew close while Jake and Kate provided covering fire, taking out defensive turrets. Amy docked with the hatch and Lisa ran through with her equipment. The engineer disappeared inside the station while the others held their position. Minutes felt like hours as the battle raged around them. "I am in," Lisa finally called. "Give me 2 minutes. We might not have 2 minutes," Amy replied. "The weapon is almost at full charge." On the bridge of the Defender, Admiral Mitchell saw the same thing. She made a decision that would either save them or doom them all. "All ships concentrate fire on that weapon. Everything we have, the entire human fleet turned and fired. Every cannon, every missile, every weapon they possessed hit the superweapon at once." The shields flickered and failed. Explosions rippled across the structure. Inside, Lisa felt the station shaking apart around her. She kept working, her fingers flying over alien controls. She found the weapon's targeting system and started to reprogram it. If she could not shut it down, maybe she could redirect it. The superweapon fired. A beam of impossible power lanced out into space. But instead of hitting the human fleet or a populated planet, it struck the main Kraith command station in high orbit. The station and the 3 capital ships docked to it simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. Lisa grinned. "How do you like your own weapon?" she muttered. The superweapon began to overload. Its reactor was unstable, and the damage from the fleet's attack had compromised its containment. Lisa ran back to Amy's fighter and they undocked seconds before the entire structure exploded. The blast waves swept through the system. Kraith ships caught too close were destroyed or disabled. The enemy fleet fell into chaos. Their command structure was gone. Their superweapon was destroyed. Many captains decided survival was better than honor and fled into hyperspace. Admiral Mitchell did not let up. She pressed the attack, driving the remaining Kraith forces away from their homeworld. The battle turned into a rout. In the ruins of the Kraith defensive fleet, Lyra received a message. It was from the Sylvani systems loyal to Vex's memory. They wanted to negotiate surrender. The civil war was over. Queen Lyra Starweaver had won. 3 months later, Jake stood on the balcony of the new Sylvani palace. It had been rebuilt from the ruins of the old one, a symbol of rebirth. Below, crowds gathered to celebrate the formal alliance between humanity and the Sylvani people. Lyra joined him, wearing robes of office but still looking like the woman who had agreed to serve him as payment for a debt. Ember lounged nearby, content and peaceful. "Thank you," Lyra said quietly. "For everything," Jake smiled. "I think we are past thank yous. You saved my life at least 3 times during that battle." Lyra laughed. "Only 3. I count at least 5. They stood in comfortable silence watching the celebrations. Representatives from a dozen human colonies had come to witness the signing of the Alliance Treaty. Technology exchange programs were already beginning. The Sylvani would teach humans about energy manipulation and advanced materials. Humans would share manufacturing techniques and tactical doctrine. Admiral Mitchell had been named as humanity's first ambassador to the Sylvani people. Marcus was training the first combined human-Sylvani military units. Amy and Lisa had returned to their own projects, though they visited often. Kate was the surprise. The young princess had asked to join Jake's crew, to learn more about humanity and see the galaxy. Lyra had agreed, knowing her sister needed to find her own path. "What will you do now?" Lyra asked Jake. "You could stay here, be an official liaison. Help build this new future." Jake thought about it. The offer was tempting, but he was a spacer at heart, happiest when the stars were his destination rather than his home. "I think I will keep flying," he said, "but not cargo runs anymore. Maybe I will take Kate and explore the unknown regions. Find new worlds. Make new friends." Lyra nodded. though sadness flickered in her violet eyes. I understand. You are not meant to be tied to one place. Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out the star crystal Lyra had given him months ago. It glowed softly in his hand. But I will come back. This is a promise, remember. Our partnership is just beginning. Lyra smiled and touched the crystal. In Sylvani culture, a star crystal bond is eternal. No matter where you go, I will always know you are safe, and you will always have a home here. She leaned closer and kissed him gently. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. Go see the galaxy, Jake Morrison. Have adventures. But come back and tell me about them. I promise, Jake said. Below, the crowds cheered as the alliance treaty was signed. Human and Sylvani flags flew side by side. Children of both species played together in the palace gardens. Ember roared happily, the sound echoing across the city. Jake looked at Lyra, at the city, at the future they had built together from nothing but trust and courage. He had accepted a servant as payment and discovered a queen. He had made friends across the stars. He had changed the course of history, and this was only the beginning. The stars were waiting, full of new adventures and new wonders. Jake Morrison smiled and knew that whatever came next, he was ready for it. The galaxy had changed. Humanity and the Sylvani would face it together, stronger as allies than they ever were alone. Somewhere in the palace, Kate was already packing for their journey. The Wanderer was being refitted with new Sylvani technology. Marcus was planning training exercises that would make both species better warriors. Admiral Mitchell was negotiating with other alien races, expanding the alliance further. The war was over, but the work of peace had just begun. And Jake would be part of it, flying between the stars, building bridges between species, proving that even the smallest action, like saving one life in a crowded station, could change everything. Ember spread his wings and took flight, soaring over the celebration. The starworm's roar was a promise and a challenge to the